All right, I guess it started already. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Slanted Attic Experience. Today we have my buddy Coleman on for the first time. I'm excited to introduce everybody that's listening, all of our previous viewers from our previous podcast, as well as all the new people that have found us on various avenues of social media. Welcome back, and welcome to this glorious episode with none other than Coleman. Why don't you introduce yourself? Let the guests, not the guests, the listeners know a little bit about you, and then we'll just dive right into it.
Howdy, folks. I'm Coleman. Known Tyler for a couple of years. Good buddies. Both. He's dating my fiance's sister, so that's how we got introduced. And
Yep.
both have a love of sports and drinking alcohol and playing beer die.
Yes, absolutely. And
And the
one of our
Hokies.
yes, and the Hokies, and one of our more recent interests, darts, which has been a lot of
Darts,
fun.
yes. We actually beat two guys that brought their own darts to a bar the other day. It was very fun.
Yeah, as a little bit of a background, we're very avid like beer drinking game players, but we don't get out there and play darts that often. I think we picked it up at the River House last year. I think is when that kind of started. That and like bocce ball. But
Ooh.
yeah, as of late we've been playing lots of darts and have been kicking ass in random bars around the town.
When you show up to a bar with your own set of darts with the tails that swivel
Yeah, right.
in an
That
in a package, it's like, come on, you got to be good. You got to beat two drunk guys.
Yeah, well, that was also wasn't that Patty's Day? I mean, I had been out since 10 o'clock that morning.
Yeah, I'd been drinking for like 12 hours, and those
Yeah, that's what I'm
guys
saying.
seem relatively sober. I mean, they were sober enough to bring their own darts,
Right. Yeah, I would have forgot that shit at home.
and we didn't lose a single game.
I
Me and
know,
your
I
buddy.
know.
After
You and
you quit, who was your other friend?
Graham. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
been on two of the podcasts. I actually did the first episode with him. He's been helping me edit. But for whatever reason, it's fucking up and not letting us edit the entire podcast. So might not be able to put that one out, unfortunately, but I might
yeah. Graham
record
and I were
another one with
kicking
him.
ass.
Yeah, man. Love
I was
Graham.
like, "Do you play darts?" He's like, "Nah."
Sounds
Like,
about right. Yeah,
all right,
Graham
let's do
cracks
it.
me up, man. All right, well, let's just continue our conversation that we were having kind of before we started here. We were talking about the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse that happened on Monday. Um, this article that I'm reading here was updated today at 7:55, so all this stuff should be recent. It's from AP News, so I do trust that. So yeah, basically I'm going to share my screen here and just read through some of the stuff, and then we can kind of talk about it.
Sorry, I'm also watching hockey in the background, but I
That's
am listening
okay.
to everything you say.
Are the Blackhawks playing?
No, the Blackhawks suck. I'm watching two teams that I despise. I don't know why I'm watching it. It's the
Yeah, I've
Boston
been
versus Tampa Bay.
yeah, I've been picking up hockey a little bit more recently. It's a fun sport to watch, man.
Are you a Penguins fan?
You could say that.
Ugh,
I know. I know how terrible.
it's fine. They're
All
pretty
right.
good.
So this article was posted, I'm assuming Monday, but has been updated with real-time updates to reflect death toll, if they found anybody, and provide any more information as it becomes available. So the cargo ship that lost power and crashed into a bridge in Baltimore underwent routine engine maintenance in port beforehand, the U.S. Coast Guard said Wednesday, as divers recovered the bodies of two of six workers who plunged into the water when it collapsed. The others were presumed dead, and officials said search efforts had been exhausted. Investigators on Wednesday began collecting evidence from the vessel that struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge in the previous day. So I guess it was Tuesday. I'm sorry.
It was Tuesday.
Yeah,
It was, but I think it was like 1:30 like Tuesday morning. So
that's right. That's right.
yeah, basically
Yeah,
Monday.
right. The bodies of the two men were located in the morning inside a red pickup truck, submerged in
Oh,
about
damn!
25
Someone was in a
feet of
car.
water. Yeah, near the bridge's middle span.
That sucks.
Wow.
I didn't know anyone in the cars went in. I thought it was just people like on the bridge.
Well, it said they were part of a construction crew fixing potholes. They're from Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. But
That
yeah, I would assume maybe
sucks.
they were eating lunch, bro, on
Or
just got
taking
in
a
their pickup.
nap, dude.
Yeah, true, true.
They could have
Because
just
it,
been actually, honestly, if they were asleep, that might have been the best thing. Well, they would have woken up though.
yeah, with
It's like that scene from Inception.
Yeah, they reacted to what do they call it in Inception? I mean, it's a real
The
thing.
drop, isn't that what it's
Yeah,
called?
yeah, I think that's what they call it. But it's like I'm trying to think of what it is. But it's like
It's
a
like your inner
brain.
ear reaction,
Yes,
right?
it's a reaction to falling. Um, so yeah, that's why. So actually, I heard something funny at work the other day. Um, that one of the superintendents that one of my coworkers had previously worked with would hold a pen in his hand and would kick back in his at his desk and fall asleep. And whenever his hand relaxed enough for the pen to drop, he would immediately wake up. It would be like 15 minutes, and that's how he'd get his power naps throughout the day.
Will that work?
I don't know, man.
What's waking him up from the pin? Just the drop, like the
Just
sound?
just like the sound, the reaction of something falling out of your hand. I don't know. It seemed to work for
Dude,
him
I've passed out with beers in my hand and not woken up.
when you dropped
There's
it.
a there's a stain on my couch to prove it.
I don't know, man. Teach his own. Must have been a very unique individual.
That's a good idea though, because that's one thing with naps that I'm always like, well, I'm only planning to go to sleep for like 10 minutes, but I'm gonna set my alarm for 15. But what happens if I fall asleep like 12 minutes in? Then I only get like 3 minutes of sleep.
Exactly. That's what I struggle with. I'm so worried about trying to get to sleep right away that I can't nap. I'm like, I
During
only
the
have 30
summer, I'm a good
minutes.
power napper.
You need to practice that. Let's look up some power nap statistics.
In the winter, if I just go to sleep, I'm out. Like
Yeah,
there's no no recovery there.
I can't do it at all. I have trouble falling asleep.
Do you have narcolepsy?
I don't think so. I would like to get a sleep study, but I don't think I could fall asleep if I went to some place and tried to, do a sleep study. I'd
Just
have
take
to
some
do.
power medicine beforehand. Just take some Advil PM. Go right to sleep.
Yeah, I guess that's fair enough. But would that not impact how I sleep maybe?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
That's right. I'm not a doctor either.
I
I
feel
mean,
like
we
I
could
do need a CPAP though.
yeah, I bet you a lot of people do, but they don't
My
have it.
dad has one.
My dad, I don't know if my dad has one or not, but he definitely needs one.
He said it like, I mean, I've tried it and it's extremely uncomfortable, but he claims that it like revolutionized the way he sleeps.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, I can't imagine for people that are trying to sleep with blocked airways or a multitude of different, sleep related issues, and finally they get this CPAP machine and their airways are open, they can finally get quality sleep. They're probably a game changer.
Oh, for sure.
You
I
know
started
how?
using the freaking um breathe right strips
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
recently, just because my nose is always I've messed it up. So I've broken it a couple times, and then I have bad allergies, and I had a
Yep.
deviated septum that they fixed. So my nose is just always flamed up, it seems like.
It's about that time of year too. All the pollen and crap outside. I mean, I've had a runny nose for like a month.
They're doing some crazy things with those breatherites though. Like you know how the strip has the metal piece in it that just kind of like,
Yeah.
expands and that's what does your nostril. I saw one on Instagram today and it's a solid plastic piece that looks like this
Uh-huh.
and it's got two magnets on each end. And then what you do is you put a strip here or a sticky magnet here and a sticky
Right.
magnet here and it expands it that way and it's supposed to be like a less um wasteful way because it's not you're not throwing away, a bunch
Right.
of plastic each time you do it.
Right. It's reusable. Interesting. I wonder what the efficacy of something like that is.
I noticed the
Um,
difference. I mean, I used them for a month and I definitely noticed the difference. It's just hard if you're a mouth breather when you sleep. It's just really hard to break that habit.
yep. Yeah, it's
Do you do
this
that?
this yeah, I'm definitely a mouth breather when I sleep. I would say a little bit. I would say half and half.
I feel like it's hard to find someone who's like perfectly breathing through their nose. I feel like that doesn't really exist without like a lot of training.
Yeah, 100%. This website I'm looking at says it's totally a thing. It says nasal strips are a type of nasal dilator, a device used to open the nostrils or nasal passages to improve airflow through the nose. What they do. Ideally, a river of air would enter through a fully open nose, flow through the throat, and pass the base of the tongue, and then enter the lungs. This does not occur as it should when there's a nasal obstruction. Airflow through the nose may become significantly reduced due to narrowness from anatomy, so you could just get born with it and be fucked.
Yep, that was me.
A deviated septum, or
Yep, that
congestion
was
from a
also me.
cold or allergies.
God, I'm 3 for 3.
Yeah, right. You meet all the criteria.
Had I been born like 200 years earlier, I'd be dead.
Yeah, right. Oh,
There's no
100%.
way.
Yeah, we talked about that in one of the other podcasts. We were talking about the evolution of, the human being and all the crap that was introduced to us now that and that we're now immune to via evolution, or we'd be totally screwed in specific periods of time due to the change in circumstance, the change in how our bodies react to these situations, and honestly, what we consume and put in our body.
I was about to say that's what scares me is like we have all this, vaccines are great for fighting off disease, but like sometimes like the stuff that's in your food is kind of like terrifying, all the preservatives and shit that are in there.
Yep, yep. You know who just announced they're going back to using preservatives? Did you see that?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, man.
I thought they were going back to antibiotics.
Is that right? No, you're right. It's antibiotics, not
Yeah,
preservatives.
they were
I'm sorry.
they announced that because they'd been the whole, antibiotic free thing, which I get. I mean, I like to splurge for, you know, as organic meat as I can get
Right.
just because it's better for you. But when you have that big of a industry, I mean, you can only cut so many corners.
Yeah, I'd like to see like the financials behind a business like Chick-fil-A, because I feel like once they came onto the scene and got that word of mouth advertisement, they just blew up, man.
Dude, they've got to make stupid. Look how much they're worth. I guarantee it's a stupid amount. I bet
What,
they're
like
probably one of the
total
top five.
asset value?
At least in the South, they're definitely like one or two.
Chick-fil-A's earnings top $1 billion for second straight year.
Where does that put them in the ranking?
That was 2022, dude.
I
Let's
wonder if they have
see.
Chick-fil-A overseas.
Here we go. The 2023 QSR 50 fast foods leading annual report. The top 50 chicken sandwich McDonald's is still number one.
Well, yeah, that doesn't shock me.
Well, this said they're experiencing a renaissance of sorts thanks to its overall transformation plan. Accelerating the arches, modernization, 3Ds, digital delivery and drive through.
Who is McDonald's is?
Yeah, McDonald's.
Dude, I don't
They,
like how like heartless McDonald's is becoming. You go in that place, there's no one working. You order off a freaking
yeah,
computer screen. They took away all the fun colors and like the cartoon characters, and now it's just so sterile. Like I feel like I'm in a doctor's office.
yep. No, 100%. It's so weird. I
I didn't,
mean,
yeah, I get it,
yeah,
but if you're gonna take like the human element out of it with people working the cash register, which I mean I can understand because computers are always gonna be more effective, and sometimes when you're hungover in a McDonald's, you don't necessarily want to interact with someone
yeah.
like us in
No,
that McDonald's
100%.
up when we were trying to find you a suit when we were both just dying.
Oh, yes. Oh, that was brutal.
Like I would have much rather just ordered off a
Right,
computer
just the
screen.
the tablet or the big screens that they have. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
But if you're gonna do that, like make it fun, make it colorful, like bring back
yes,
Ronald McDonald.
exactly. I don't see why they just don't get to or go to 100% drive-through. I never see anybody really sitting at McDonald's anyway.
Yeah, I'm torn on that because I'm the type of person where if I pull up to a drive-through and it's like 20 deep, I'm just gonna go in.
Right. Well, yeah, 100%. But I mean, they take away that option, then they don't have to maintain or perform maintenance, I guess, on floors, tables. They don't have to have a janitorial staff. They don't have to have restrooms for customers.
Yeah, but you gotta employ people. I get as a cost cutting,
Right.
you know, thing, but like there are a lot of people their first jobs are, McDonald's and stuff like that.
Right. And yeah, I mean, there's plenty of adults that still that's their primary source of income is a job like
Yeah,
that, or two jobs like that. Yeah, and we were talking about yesterday how the federal minimum wage is still $7.25, and gas. What was gas? $5 a gallon almost during
something like
COVID.
that.
I mean, how do you expect for somebody to pay to get their car to work?
Did you see what just happened in California?
No.
They passed that I think it was a $20 minimum wage. And apparently I only read this from one news source, so I'm not sure how credible it is. But it was Pop or Pizza Hut has already cut like 1,500 jobs in California because they're like, yeah, we won't be able to afford to pay everyone.
Yeah, this is saying, yeah, all of them, not just Pizza Hut. This is
It was a
Business
bunch of delivery
Insider.
drivers. They were going to outsource it to Uber Eats.
Uh,
Ooh, good
Interesting.
fight.
Fast food restaurants in California are laying off workers to prepare for a $20 minimum wage hike. Pizza Hut franchises plan to lay off around 1,200 workers. Let's see. Other pizza franchises, it's basically referencing. I can't find. I guess there's a couple of McDonald's franchisees talking, but I can't find anything specific from any company other than Pizza Hut. I'm sure there is, but
Yeah, it popped up. It's just, I mean, I get the idea. You want to pay people, and you want to keep the best people at what they're doing, but it's going to kind of screw over a lot of people who, rely on that for, multiple different reasons.
yeah, absolutely. They're just trying to cut out the bottom, with the bottom class, the lower class. They're just trying to
Yeah.
X them out, dude, make them poor, like even poorer than they already are. And I mean, we see that like even our, you know, I don't want to say wealth group, but our economic group, we're getting pushed back to the mean. I mean, I'm making a good salary, and if I would have made this 10 years ago, I mean, I'd be living the dream, man. But
Oh yeah, dude. If I was making
inflation, right,
what I am now when I got out of college, be a
right,
whole different lifestyle. I'd have a
right.
house.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy. I think I read online today that the average salary to be able to afford a mean income house is $114,000 a year.
Yeah. And there are people who are, making more than that and still can't find a house.
Yes, absolutely, man. Well, I mean, it's all about the cost of living in the area that you're at. But I mean, a median house, what do we think that costs? $450,000 now, which is
In Richmond,
crazy. I'm just saying, I think it was across the U.S. was the statistic. Um, but I mean, even what you sent me the other day, Richmond's become, what is it? It's the highest city in the United States where renters are using over 30% of their net income to.
so two things have come out about housing situation in Richmond within the last 2 months. One was from the Wall Street Journal, and it said, I think it was Wall Street Journal. It said that, or New York Times, one of the two. Richmond was number, I think it was one or two. It was within the top 10 worst places for Gen Z home buyers to even look at a house because housing prices are skyrocketing so quickly
Yep.
compared to other places,
Oh,
and demand
in
or
Richmond?
supply is so low.
Let's see.
And
Is
then
there you said Richmond
I think it was New
housing?
York Times. Look up like worst place for Gen Z to own a house.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Continue. Sorry.
The second one that came out was I can't remember what this was in, but it was pretty much saying how Richmond has is the second worst place in the entire United States right now based off income and rental affordability. It's only behind like LA.
Yep. Yeah, I'm seeing this now. Wow, I don't have a New York Times account. Damn it. Yeah. So, but you were right. I mean, it's saying Richmond.
Basically, the gist of it was there's not enough homes to go around. The homes that are available are pretty much overpriced because there isn't enough supply.
Yep.
And the average Gen Z person who is looking to buy a house doesn't have the income to even, get qualified or,
Right. Right.
even get a second look from someone who's
Yep.
getting all cash offers by other people.
Yep. They're just driving up the market by consolidating it even more, and then they're building a fuck ton of those multi-story high-rise apartment complexes, and they're going to start forcing people into those for a
This,
decently high rent as well.
I was talking to Riley last night. I'm like very terrified that Richmond is going to turn into just a Nova suburb.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean,
That's
yeah.
kind of the route it's taking. Everyone
Yep.
from Nova's moving here because it's cheaper, and they're just kind of just driving up the cost of living here.
Yeah. I think it's a factor of a lot of stuff. I think Richmond's doing well right now in general. So
I just don't think
obviously
it's big
that's
enough to house the population that's coming.
right. Yep, and I mean, how do they do it in other cities? There's infrastructure plans, there's urban planning, there's ways to achieve this and do that. But again, like this, I feel like a broken record. This comes up every podcast. I just don't think the government is doing a great job at allocating this money to where it needs to go and providing these services. I mean, just like what you were saying, I mean, it's pretty clear to see that more people are moving here than are moving away, and everything's super expensive. Like, why do we not see this and do something about it?
The issue with Richmond too is just the way it's built. It's built, you got the James running, and Richmond is just built along the James.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go south, and then you get to Chesterfield. That's what's happening. You can go uh, east, and you can go into New Kent.
Mm-hmm.
You can go west to an extent, because once you get to Goochland, all that land is bought up by other people. Same with Hanover.
Yep.
Hanover's all bought up by rich, old families that have been there for 100 years.
Right.
So there's only so many places that we can expand to that people are willing to sell their land.
Right.
And you can only go so far east too. I mean, once you get past Varina, you get to like Turkey Island and all these old homes that have been there for 200 years. Like no one's going to sell that.
Right. Right. I mean, that'll stay in the family forever. I mean,
Yeah.
is it a lot of like tobacco money?
Yeah. So as you go more east, and then Hanover too, that's where all the old tobacco money is.
Interesting.
Yeah, really pretty houses back there. But that's pretty much where they would settle.
Right. So okay. Can you kind of explain to me Richmond's history in terms of that? So kind of what you were saying is there's a large amount of people with lots of land surrounding the city, right? And it's right on the bank of a river, right? Great spot to settle, create a colony or, a city of people. But I guess kind of explain to me how it started from these rich, like I don't want to say rich because they created their own wealth at the time with tobacco. That was a very up and coming plant and it was good for importing, exporting trade and stuff like that. I guess give me the rundown. What happened? I mean, you should be able
Yeah.
to. You probably have a great idea. That's
Yeah,
why
I
I'm
mean
asking.
going back to the start, pretty much Richmond was kind of a um reject colony for Jamestown a little bit.
Uh huh.
They kind of sent their criminals up this way. Um and or people they pretty much termed as undesirables.
The
They
undesirables.
sent them up to Richmond. And that was kind of like the penal colony of Jamestown. And it
Mm-hmm.
was just in a better spot. Jamestown's in a really like marshy area. It's, on one of the islands, or not the islands, one of the peninsulas down near Williamsburg. So just lots of mosquitoes, mosquitoes breed disease. So they wanted a better place to move. So they moved them up to Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, as people started moving around, they started interacting more with Native Americans in the area. And I think it was Powhatan, I want to say Tuckahoe. There were a couple tribes within the area, and they started trading, and all these Native Americans were teaching them pretty much how to fish in rapids and stuff, and then
Mm-hmm.
also how to cultivate tobacco. And that's kind of what started the boom with Richmond. And I mean, if you go down there now, all those factories that are on the canal down near like Rockets Landing, all of
Mm-hmm.
those used to be, Philip Morris, Lucky Strike, all sorts of tobacco factories down there.
Yep.
So it's as shitty as it is, tobacco kind of helped fuel the city's growth and, 1700s, 1800s,
Mm-hmm.
1900s till about the 50s, 60s when stuff started getting a little sketchy. But I mean, Philip Morris is still here. They still have that massive
Yep.
production plant on South Side. And then I can't
I
remember.
think yeah, they're either a conglomerate of like a large tobacco company or they're associated with Philip Morris. Let's see.
But yeah, I mean,
Um,
pretty much they would grow all this tobacco, Hanover, Chesterfield. They actually there's a really cool old picture. It's in the Valentine of um, a worker in the fields, like right at the end of Monument Avenue. Like that's how far the tobacco fields used to go. Like it's absurd how much of the city was taken up by tobacco. Um, and
Yeah.
then once that started to die, that kind of caused the city to die a little bit. And then
Hmm.
early 2000s, I kind of had a revamp.
Yeah, I'm sure it was booming back at that time. I mean, especially when you're getting a cash crop like that, of course you're going to plant as much as you possibly can, right? But let's go back to Altria. Wikipedia said it's previously known as Philip Morris Companies.
And they have all the so Philip Morris still, from what I understand, I know a few people who have worked there in the past or still work there.
Uh huh.
Um, Philip Morris is still strictly making the tobacco, like loose leaf cigarettes, whereas Altria has all the stuff for the vaping products and stuff. So
Yep.
I think they just hold the patents in different areas.
Yep. They it looks like they acquired Enjoy. If you're familiar with that vape, it's one of the
Hmm.
ones they sell at Sheets.
Didn't they buy a Juul
Whatever.
too?
Did they buy Juul? Let's
I
see.
thought they
Their
did, and I thought it was just a
smoke free
horrible
product
investment at the time.
platforms.
But I think it's rebounded a little bit.
They have no Enjoy. It says they also have On the nicotine pouches, and then they also have Copenhagen, Skull, Red Seal, and Husky.
They have Copenhagen? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. Moist smokeless tobacco. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I pass by one of their corporate offices all the time.
Yeah, I've heard some interesting things about their factories. Not just them in general, but just tobacco factories
Yeah,
and
sure.
how they operate.
Oh, really? Can you enlighten me a little bit? I don't know if I've heard this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how true it is, so take it with a grain of salt. I've just heard it from I can't I think I saw it honestly on the internet, but then other people who have been in the industry have also kind of filled me in on it. Pretty much
Right.
they they cut the tobacco and then they dry it.
Uh-huh.
And they dry
Sounds
it
about
out
right.
so it's preserved, and then they put it on this massive conveyor belt.
Uh-huh.
And while it's on the conveyor belt, they're just shooting liquid onto it. I'm not sure what's in the liquid. It's probably like flavoring and probably some of the chemicals that you're getting.
Right. Yep.
But apparently there's just like a sticky um, coating to everywhere in the factories. And I heard one
Interesting.
guy who was talking about it. He's like, "Yeah, I saw how it worked and saw everything that went on in there, and I haven't smoked a cigarette since because I just picture that stuff being on my lungs."
Ugh. Well, like that's what I was kind of going to get to. Like, um, I don't hate like loose leaf tobacco rolled cigarettes as much as the your brand name ones that were rolled and developed by Philip Morris with 98 different carcinogens and tar and rat poison and shit like that. I mean,
Don't get me wrong, though. I'll smoke one of those. I do enjoy a cigarette every now and
I have had one. I have had one before.
then. They
It is
are
crazy.
delicious at times.
Yep, they were talking about it on the Rogan Gary Clark Jr. podcast I was listening to today, and they're like,
Gary
"Yeah,
Clark Jr.,
yes,
like the musician.
uh huh,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah." It's really interesting. I'm about halfway through it. Anyways, they're talking about like different forms of consuming tobacco or whatever. And, they're talking about vaping and hitting cigars and like loose leaf tobacco. They were talking about blunts, and Joe Rogan goes, "Honestly though, I don't know if it's the psychology in it." He's like, "There's nothing like a cigarette, man. Like the head, the
There
head
is it.
buzz and the rush is." He's like, "There's nothing like it."
I send you that meme the other day. It was like what a drunk cigarette sounds like, and it's the Halo music.
Yeah,
I was like, that is so accurate.
yeah. I mean, I'd have to pull it up, do a little bit more research, but from what I've seen and read online, there are clinical studies that confirm that the use of nicotine itself is beneficial to the human brain function. The only problem is all the other problems that come along with it, like the
Yeah.
diseases and issues that come from smoking or using smokeless tobacco and other stuff like that.
But you look like, I mean, again, this is all, you know, circumstantial, and I'm not sure. It's more conjecture, really. But
Sure,
you look
yeah.
back on like Native Americans, and they were smoking the shit out of some tobacco, and they lived, a decently long life, back before everything in their world was kind of tainted by settlers.
Right.
But I mean, that was kind of a part of life for them. And I don't know. I don't know whether it's the tobacco itself and the stuff that's in it,
Damn.
like just naturally, or whether it's all the stuff that has been put in it at like preservatives. And again, that goes back to the whole food thing with all the preservatives in food these days. It's
Right.
just,
Right. Right. I mean, it's a lot of the other additives and crap in it than it is the nicotine itself. Um, I'm trying to find the life expectancy from the Native Americans because I bet you their
that'd be
life
so hard to
expectancy,
find, dude.
yeah, but their life expectancy is probably so much better than the relative other tribes and people in that same era of history, if I had to
Y-
guess.
Yeah, until they met settlers, and then that went down significantly
Right,
through disease and, alcohol and other types of vices that didn't help anyone out.
right. Yeah, I can't
Um,
find anything exactly on it, unfortunately, but I'd like to think so.
Maybe
They're
that's just something I've imagined in my mind because they had like such a healthier lifestyle.
right. Well, they
But
had
I
much.
wonder if there's anyone just like growing tobacco in their backyard. Like, I
Uh,
wonder how hard it is to grow.
yeah, that's a great question. I literally have no idea. I can't
I mean, if
imagine
you can
it's.
grow weed, like it can't be that
Yeah.
much harder.
Well, hey man, they call it weed for a reason. It's probably
I
pretty
guess
easy
that's
to
true.
grow.
If you
I've
can
never.
grow good weed,
Yes, there you go.
it can't be that hard.
Right. Yeah, I can't imagine tobacco's that difficult to grow. I mean, they were able to do it with very unrefined farming methods back then
Yeah,
in
it's got to be
large
somewhat like,
scale.
you know, boisterous. Like maybe that's our new thing. We can start growing some organic tobacco.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's out there, honestly.
Yeah, it says water the seeds frequently but gently using a mist from spray bottle. Tiny seedlings emerge in about 10 days. La 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 la. pH of 5.8. Transplant thrives in warm, humid climates. Well draining soil
Perfect.
that's rich in organic matter. So actually, that may not be true anymore. We touched on this in my first episode with Hunter, who is a cannabis farmer out in Colorado. But we were talking about the Dust Bowl, and that kind of brought us to monocrop agriculture and how farming has been affected over the last 50 years, 50, 60 years with the draining of the nutrients from the soil. Everything is
Having to
top.
recycle the crops and all that stuff,
Yes, exactly. So
like corn and soybeans.
right, right. Quite literally. So maybe on another hand, it might be difficult to grow tobacco because this is saying it needs well draining soil that's rich in organic matter, which we don't have anymore. I think
Oh, dude, you just compost. You could compost some poop and make some very organic soil.
the current I think trend that we're at, we have 50 years left of organic matter in our soil, enough to grow a substantial amount of
Where'd you see
of food.
that?
Let's see. How long do we have with monocrop farming? Food Revolution Network.
I'm not a soy guy, but I will say soybeans, they do some amazing stuff to soil. Just what they put back in.
Right.
That's why you see like down at the river, like you always see they do a couple years of corn, then they do soy, then they do wheat, just to kind of recycle it as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's not monocrop farming. So I mean, I'm sure you could guess what it is, even if you don't know the meaning of the word. I mean, it's
Well, I feel like
basically planting
monocrop is
over and
more for
over.
the bigger places. Like smaller guys are still doing
Right.
the rotations.
Yes, which is called regenerative farming, and upcycle everything. They'll use their chicken shit to fertilize the
Hmm.
crops. The pig slop, all that stuff goes back into the system, which is the way it should be, right? But the problem is you have these multi-million, billion, mega national corporations that are in control of probably 85, 90% of the farming market. We looked at a study on the first podcast, and the distinction between the I think it was 54% of farms are considered small farms, which are less than 1,000 acres, but that only
Hmm.
made up 6% of food produced or something like that.
A lot
Whereas,
of those are producing actually feed corn.
Right.
So a lot of the corn you see down in Tappahannock area, it's not actually sweet yellow corn. It's feed corn for farm animals.
Yep. Yep. Which is crazy. I guess we got to feed them, feed us, though. I mean,
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
it's the way the cookie crumbles. As shitty as it is, I mean, that's nature, though. I mean, we're so far from removed from what we eat now. It's ridiculous. That's why I really want to come hunting with you and eat an animal that I shot, dude. I feel like
Yeah,
that's so crazy.
it's an when you take it when you see where it came from, then you harvest it, then you eat it. It's especially if you do it within the same day.
Yeah.
Like this year we shot some ducks and then cooked them the same day, and that's just such a
Mm.
crazy. It's hard. It's almost hard to like wrap your head around it.
Yeah. It's almost what I'm sure it's like almost like a tribal or like just a oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Not like regressive, but like you're just a primal
Primal,
instinct.
yeah.
Yeah, that you're eating food that you harvested yourself. I mean, we are so far removed from that right now in 2024. I mean, I just go to the grocery store and get whatever I want. I got
Yeah.
shit shipped in from China, from Japan, different fruits and vegetables from all over the place, just at my disposal.
And I understand how people don't like hunting. Like I get it.
Yes.
I feel bad when I shoot an animal and it suffers because I didn't make a good shot or something like that. But
Right.
it's also, you know, it's an ex it's something you can't really explain. It's just exactly what this was doing 2 hours
Mm-hmm.
ago.
Right. Right.
So you eat it and it's just like, God, this tastes fresh. It's like fresh fruit. Like if you taste like fresh fruit right off a tree, it has, it tastes different, but it tastes
Mm-hmm.
fresh.
Right.
That's kind of the same thing.
Yep. Yeah. And like kind of to your point there, all these people that are protesting, meat in general, where's all their other produce and all their other food coming from? Somewhere that's oppressing something else. I mean, there's
Dude, I
issues
read
with,
something
you
that
know,
avocado it has like one of the worst carbon footprints of anything that is imported in the United States
I believe that. I think I heard
because of how
something
labor
similar.
intensive it is and how quickly they have to get them here. And also, apparently, I read somewhere that the cartel has also taken over a lot of the avocado farming in Mexico. So buying avocados apparently supports the cartel.
Hey now, don't want to get too into that.
True.
This is saying, this is World Economic Forum, avocado, the green gold causing environment havoc.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
see.
interesting. I read I don't know if it was that exact article, but I read one similar, and it was brought up a lot of stuff that I had never even thought about.
Yeah, it says they use 9.5 billion liters of water daily to produce
What?
avocado, equivalent to 3,800 Olympic swimming pools. And they extract it from
A
the aquifers
day?
daily. Yep.
Is this just for like one farm, or is this for like all of Mexico?
This is saying the what is it? Michoacan, Michoacan aquifers. So it says excessive extraction of water from these aquifers is having unexpected consequences, such as causing small earthquakes. From the 5th of January to 15th of February, 3,247 seismic movements were recorded in Urupan municipality and its surroundings, the
Why is
most
that?
important avocado producing area in the world. According to local authorities, avocado related water extraction has opened up subsoil caverns that could be causing these movements.
Mm.
Holy shit.
Like sinkholes almost.
Yep. You want to hear another crazy stat that's on the next page? 1 hectare of avocado with 156 trees consumes 1.6 times more than a forest with 677 trees in the same the same size.
Say that again?
So a hectare is a unit of measurement, right?
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, I need to know what it is. So it's a non-SI metric unit of an area equal to a square with 100-meter sides. So 10,000 square meters.
Yeah.
So 1 hectare of avocado with 156 trees consumes 1.6 times more water than a forest with 677 trees in that same area or
That's
hectare.
crazy. Now, how does that like compare to like other fruit trees? Because I'm sure fruit trees just in their
Right.
nature consume more just because they have to produce, plump fruit.
Right. I don't know. That was super interesting, though. I'll have to read more into something like
Like
this.
I wonder how that compares to like oranges, because I
Right.
know oranges take a lot of um, nutrients and resources to grow as well.
Dude, did you see the how impactful I think it's almonds are because they're mainly
Good or
produced
bad?
in terrible. They're mainly produced in desert climates such as like Arizona and New Mexico, which don't have a ton of water to begin with, and
Oh,
yeah, they're using a large majority of water from their I guess aquifers or water storage systems to produce almond milk.
dude, hot take. I don't like almonds.
Almonds are okay.
I think they're so bland.
Yeah, they are
I
kind
take
of
a
bland.
peanut over an almond any day.
All right, well I
And
don't
I
know if
get it,
that's
people
a
are
hot
allergic to
take.
peanuts, but peanuts are just so delicious. And they don't use as much water. Actually, I don't know that for a fact. They
Hold
could
on,
use
let's
more
see.
water.
Why is this not
I,
telling me this? Damn it.
I feel like the fact that I can find peanuts just out in the wild, just growing,
That is kind of crazy.
and I've never seen an almond just growing.
I'm
Do
not
almonds come from
seeing.
trees? Or are they like a
Yes,
peanut where they
I
grow
want
on
to
the
say
ground?
almonds or trees. Well, let's
Okay.
see. Almond trees in Key West.
Okay.
Here's what an almond tree looks like.
Damn, those things are little. Oh, wait,
Yeah,
they get big.
interesting.
You
They kind
talk
of look
about a
like
cool job. My dad's one of his first jobs. He worked at a nursery in town.
a plant
Um,
nursery,
yeah, like
or
a
for
plant
children,
nursery.
child nursery.
No, not a child nursery.
I
Dad,
feel like
I don't think
that.
was good with kids.
Yeah, I don't think that would be as fun of a job either.
No. He worked at Watkins Nursery,
Uh-huh.
and I think it's in Chesterfield. But it sounded like an awesome job, and that's how he knows so much about like trees and plants and stuff.
Yeah, I honestly love that shit. I don't know if you've met my buddy Hunter, who I was talking about earlier. He's a cannabis farmer, but both him and his girlfriend, who I live with in college, were both in the School of Agriculture at Tech. So they had to
Oh,
take all
that's
those
cool.
plant courses with the what is it? It's not the native names, but it's like the
The
you know,
Latin names,
yeah, the Latin names of all
like
the
the
plants.
genus and
Yes,
species
the
and all that
genus.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And they used to tell me all this stuff, and it was geeks, man. It was kind of crazy.
I know some. I mean, I know how to identify stuff by sight, but I don't know like all that sorts of crap.
How did you learn that stuff? Just by reading books or whatever? Did you take any courses at school? Because I know you're a history major, so I mean, I don't know if that
Yeah,
would
I don't.
necessarily
It wasn't
overlap.
through school. It was more through, you know, spending a lot of time in the woods as a kid. You kind of gotta. The first thing we learned was what was poison oak and what was poison ivy.
Yep.
And
People still have no idea, man.
yep, that's something you learn really quickly when you spend a lot of time in the woods in Virginia,
Yep.
or anywhere, honestly. But then, Dad taught me stuff, and there's some people who are like my buddy Reed knows all that stuff. He can do like the genus and stuff, but he got his master's in marine sciences, so I'm sure he had to take classes on that type of stuff.
Right. Right.
But I
Yeah.
I know stuff just by sight. Like I can find
That's
like blackberry bushes and stuff because I've walked through tons of blackberry brambles deer hunting,
right.
and it just sucks because they have a bunch of thorns and stuff on them.
Yep. Yeah, and that's fun. I mean, the more you experience that kind of stuff, the more time you spend outside, I'm sure you just recognize more and more shit as you're traveling or going anywhere, especially like, on the East Coast. I feel like a lot of the areas could be different temperate climates, but a lot of the species are similar, aren't they? Or is
For
that not
plants or
true?
for animals,
Plants.
they'd probably be similar. I mean, probably below the Mason-Dixon,
Mm-hmm.
going south, it's a little bit more unified because with the humidity, like only certain plants can survive with that much humidity.
Fair.
So I'd say from like Maryland down to like South Carolina, it stays pretty similar. Maybe North Carolina, and then South Carolina through Georgia it starts to change, and then Florida is just its own beast because that's just a
Right.
rainforest.
Yeah,
But I
which is
feel like
crazy.
as you go north, like where you grew up, like Pennsylvania, I'm sure has shit that I've just never even seen because it's, those cold weather plants that can survive throughout the winter under a foot of snow and then bloom again in, spring.
When I was in middle school, I was in Envirothon. Do they have that when you were in middle school?
Envirothon,
Yeah, that's what it was called.
probably something along those lines.
All the schools in our district would put together teams, and then you'd go stay at like a camp for 2 or 3 days, and they'd literally quiz the shit out of you. You test in different areas, and I was our fish, our Pennsylvania fish species, and
Where are you now?
birds of prey. Yes, so I have a little bit of knowledge in that. I mean, God, I could name a bunch of, well, based on photos, I could name probably 8 different kinds of fish. Kind of crazy.
Not to completely change the topic, but do you follow the Falcon Camp?
No, what's that? Should we put it on?
Just Google the DWR Falcon Camp. What's Grace making?
She's making pasta.
Shocker. A Gimel eating pasta.
Yeah, right. Here we go. Let's put it live. Let's share the audio too. Oh, he's hanging out, bro.
I didn't know they had it at night. So her name is Fiona. She's had 4 eggs so far,
Wow.
but
What kind
she's
of
a peregrine falcon,
peregrine
and
falcon?
her
That's my
her
favorite
and
bird.
her yeah, her and her mate have been coming back there. It's been the same two. They have them tagged. It's been the
Uh,
same two for like 4 years. And I
oh,
was doing some research on them today. Apparently, peregrine falcons are one of the most populous birds in the entire world, and they're on every single continent except Antarctica.
really?
Yeah, and usually they're it's not a litter. I know that's not right, but their litter of eggs is like two, 1, 2. But she's had 4 this year.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Aren't they the fastest land animal?
they are in a dive. Believe it or not, someone actually no, I don't even know if this is true. One of my redneck friends told me that a um a teal duck is actually quicker than a falcon in a straight line. Where the falcons get is they have to dive.
Right.
The
What is it?
dive
Teal
is they
duck?
can get up to like 200 miles an hour or something.
List of birds by flight speed. This is a list of the fastest flying birds in the world. A bird's velocity is necessarily variable. A hummingbird will reach much greater speeds while diving to catch prey than when flying horizontally. The bird that can achieve the greatest airspeed is the peregrine falcon, able to exceed 320 kilometers an hour, 200
But
miles per
that's in a
hour in its
dive, man.
dive.
I want to know. That's downhill. I want to know what they can long.
Maximum horizontal speed. Let's see. This looks like the fastest. It is the white-throated needletail, 105 miles an hour
Damn, in a straight
horizontal.
line.
Yeah. The peregrine falcon's only, for comparison, is only 68 miles per hour
That's still
um,
pretty fast.
horizontal. Yeah. The other ones that are fast are a Saker falcon, 93 miles an hour, a golden eagle, 80 miles an hour, an albatross, gray-headed albatross, 79 miles an hour. Why is my camera not working?
I was gonna say you're a little fuzzy there.
There we go. 79 miles an hour. And then the gyrfalcon, 90 miles an hour, white-throated needletail. Common swift, the spur-winged goose, 89 miles an hour diving speed. The common eider, 76 miles an hour diving speed. That was pretty good. Duck speeds. Let's see. This is the magazine. Oh wait, I'm still sharing the Peregrine Falcon one. Hold on. Sorry. Gauging speed miles per hour began at 1700 when stagecoach is established. Okay, we don't need that. Reliable sources for waterfowl. Oh, that's it. Number of waterfowl species and their estimated flight speeds. Those estimates have not changed all that much. Fastest duck ever reported was a red-breasted, how do I say this? Merganser?
Merganser.
Merganser that topped out at
Technically,
100
not a
miles.
duck.
What is it?
Technically, it's a coot.
Oh, what's that?
It's like a cousin to a duck.
Interesting. What
But
makes it different than a duck?
so mergansers they're funky looking.
Uh, let's pull up
I
a
mean, when you
photo.
think of a duck, you think of a bill like that.
Right.
Mergansers are what are called they're divers. So
Hmm.
they, dive underwater and they eat fish and, oysters and crap. So they've got this really skinny beak and they actually have teeth on their beak. And they've got these really wild heads. Yeah. They almost look like a woodpecker.
Yeah. Interesting.
They don't they don't taste good for that reason because they eat a lot of fish. They're very gamey and they're
Right.
very greasy.
So what I guess species of duck or types of birds taste the best?
Ducks, mallards taste great. So there's a couple different like specifications for ducks. There's sea ducks, which, primarily are in the flyway right around the coastal regions. Then you've
Hmm.
got puddle ducks, which like land in like lakes and stuff. That's like your wood ducks, which are tasty, your mallards, which are really good. Um, and then you've got, what's called divers. So you've got your mergansers, you've got your bufflehead. I believe a pintail would technically be considered that, and those don't taste as good, but they can be really pretty.
So
So
those are primarily eating fish. What do the other ducks eat? Like insects and
they eat
like grass.
insects, they eat a lot of corn.
Hmm.
So a big way that you can attract ducks out west is you grow a cornfield and then you flood it
Uh-huh.
and the ducks just automatically come. Now it's illegal to throw corn into a pond. That's illegal. But if you grow up corn and then flood the corn, it's called an impoundment.
Hmm.
That attracts a ton of ducks, and that's really big out west. Not so big here. I mean, you can find some guys doing it, but it's
Right.
kind of a waste of money, honestly, because it's a whole field of corn just gone just for duck hunting. Um,
Hey, if you got the money to do it, I mean, that sounds like a
yeah,
pretty good investment.
if you got the money to do it, yeah.
You know.
So typically those taste better just because they're eating more like pretty much the more fish a duck eats, the worse it tastes.
Yeah, I believe that.
So I mean, any bird really, um, like any bird that you see eating fish is gonna taste a little fishy.
Right. Yeah, because they're ingesting all those omega threes and the fatty acids and stuff like that. I'm sure it
Yeah,
gets broken down in their bodily system. I don't really know how the anatomy of ducks work, but
it's actually funny. They eat rocks.
oh, to digest their food. What is that? Like dinosaurs, right?
Yeah, so they eat rocks and they hold it in their. They've pretty much got two stomachs.
Interesting.
So they eat the rocks and then they get the food in there, and that kind of crunches up the food like our stomach acid would do.
Right.
It helps
Interesting.
break it down, and then it moves to the second stomach.
I wonder like how the first duck figured that shit out. What did they evolve from?
Dinosaurs.
Oh, well, I guess
I
never
mean, all
mind.
birds are just friggin'
You're right.
dinosaurs.
You're right. Yep, I guess never mind. They must have just knew it from the ancestors. It's crazy how
Yeah.
that like shit like that translates through animals without I guess they do have, language, but there's no written communication past their immediate, tribes or flocks or the immediate group setting that they're in, right? I mean, how many other ducks do you think a duck meets in its lifetime to tell them about that shit? They just have to know that instinctively.
You'd be surprised. It's a lot of instincts, but like if you like when you duck hunt, you put out a big spread of decoys, right?
Hmm.
And you have these ducks who are flying, and what they see is they see the spread, and what they see that is a safe space that they can land.
Gotcha.
So you got these ducks flying into decoys thinking it's a safe space, just thinking it's a bunch of random ducks, they don't know. It's just instinct that they see a big group of ducks, they fly to those ducks and land there because they think it's safe. So it's really interesting, like the biology behind it. And
Right.
there's been an issue recently where ducks aren't just all waterfowl aren't migrating as much. They're
You think
staying put.
you think that's the change of climate or what reason?
It's hard to say. I think it's a mixture of that, and then I also think it's a mixture of like human involvement, like places where they used to migrate, like the Outer Banks.
Hmm.
Duck in the Outer Banks is called duck because it used to be in the early 1900s. There was no one out there. There was just massive flocks of ducks out there, And then as it got built up, the ducks realized, we can't live here anymore
Right.
because, people built on all of our stuff.
Right.
So they have to find other places. And I think it's more has to do with that. I'm not a, biology expert or a, weather expert, but that would be my guess.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think they do? They fly all the way down there, hundreds and hundreds of miles. They get down there like, fuck, a new condo's been built, and where we're trying to roost or whatever. I think that's the correct term. Um, yeah, I mean, what do you think how they react to that? I mean, they probably don't know what to do. Do they fly back north, or do they just try to hustle it out somewhere else?
So what has been happening is out west, they're still moving. I mean, you've still got a flyway out there that's super popular. So ducks
Mm-hmm.
are going all over the place out there and not having an issue because there's plenty of places for them to land.
Right.
But on the East Coast, like the East Coast Flyway has just gotten torn up the past 10 years because ducks just aren't migrating the way they used to. Geese the same way. They're kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't necessarily know. I would have to see because you know how they tag them, they have like GPS
Right.
trackers on them, but I would imagine they're staying within a smaller area because
Mm-hmm.
that's like an area they're familiar with and they know where they can go land and be safe. So instead of
Right.
traveling over 12 states, they might travel over 3 states or something
Right.
like that.
And so, how do you think this will affect the ecosystem as a whole? I mean, it's got to change something.
Now it's making the duck hunting hell down here. Like East Coast duck hunting is a pain. You're pretty much all the ducks you shoot are uh, resident birds. So you're
Mm-hmm.
shooting a lot of like wood ducks and mallards that are just in the area already. They're not migrating. So getting like, you know, canvasback or redhead or something like that is just getting more and more rare in the East Coast. And those are like
Mm-hmm.
prize ducks out here because they're kind of rare.
Right.
They're just getting more and more rare. So if you want to shoot one of those, you're going to have to travel to a place that has them. A lot of the times that's out west or
Sure.
my brother went down to there's a big place off Mattapas Lake. I think it's Mattapiscate or something down in North Carolina, and that's got a big flyway of ducks still.
That's cool.
But it's tough.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Tennessee still gets some. Well, parts of Tennessee still get some decent ones, but
Mm-hmm.
it's getting harder and harder to duck hunt.
Yeah, so I guess like another, not really a segue, but something else, I kind of have a question for you. I generally know how this works, but for a lot of people that don't really understand the tag system and how hunting works and regulates the animal market, I don't want to say market, the animal ecosystem in the US, because, whitetail deer technically would be invasive if we didn't shoot them. Can you kind of,
I
can you
hate
kind
those
of,
things.
I don't want to say generalize, but give a broad, example of how hunting protects our ecosystem and helps the U.S. continue to regulate their animals, and as much as we're taking space away from the animals, and I think that's pretty poor of us as humans, it's definitely important to regulate their numbers so they don't become overcrowded and have other issues. But yeah, I just kind of want you to clear that up because I've had some other people I've talked to about this, and I'm trying to explain to them, majority of the time hunting's a great thing for the environment. So
Yeah,
yeah, if you could expand on that a little bit, that would be awesome.
it's a touchy subject that people who aren't necessarily like super educated on it, they make a lot of assumptions about,
Yep.
and the assumptions are oftentimes wrong, as assumptions, oftentimes are. Pretty much, to put it in a general way for you, the last 5 years for the state of Virginia, I put in for a turkey license, a black bear license, and a deer license. Pretty much all those are combined into one license.
Uh-huh.
Um, and pretty much when you shoot something, you fill the tag. So out
Right.
of those licenses, depending on the year, you get like typically it's around like 5 tags for turkey and deer. You get, 3 or 4 tags for antlered deer. You get 1 or 2 tags for does. You can only shoot on certain days.
Mm-hmm.
Bears typically only get one. I don't know. I don't really bear hunt, so that doesn't really apply to me. And then turkey is about the same as deer.
Right.
I've given the state of Virginia like $500 of my money over the past 5 years, and I've harvested zero of any of those animals, just because I haven't, had luck doing it. So
Sure.
you're paying for the tags, But what the tags are doing is, I mean, it's kind of like it's honestly the easiest way to compare it is the lottery. Like you pay for a lottery ticket, that money's going to the state to fund, other things. You're not guaranteed to win the lottery. It's a very slim chance you're going to win the lottery.
Right.
With hunting, it's the same way. There are people who fill all their tags. Like Jeff, he hunts all the time. He fills his tags.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the resources at the time to hunt that much,
Right.
and a lot of people in the state are the same way.
Sure.
So all the money that I have essentially donated over the past 5 years, because I haven't harvested anything as far as deer or turkey,
Mm-hmm.
has gone straight into conservation of those species
Right.
and keeping disease down. Um, you know, Helping fund education, helping fund youth hunting, helping fund uh, DWR officers who
Yep.
are game wardens who help and make sure no one's breaking the law and harvesting too many of those.
Right.
The issue that we ran into was in the late 1800s, early 1900s. There just wasn't any regulation. Like I read a book about Teddy Roosevelt,
Yep.
and pretty much whenever he'd get upset, he was kind of a dick, honestly. I was really disappointed after reading that book. He definitely was, he had some insecurities. But whenever he'd get upset, he'd go out west, and his cousin or his brother had a hunting lodge in Colorado
Uh-huh.
or Dakota somewhere.
Sure.
He'd go out there and he'd just keep a log of all the animals he'd kill, and like over like a month period, he'd kill like 1,600 animals.
Dude, that's wild.
Absurdity. Like he would kill like 7 elk, like 3 buffalo, 17 turkeys, like
Right.
5 white-tailed deer, and he wouldn't, they wouldn't do anything with it. He was just out there to,
Yeah.
bloodlet.
Right.
And that was the issue is back then it wasn't regulated and people were just using it as a recreation and not necessarily using the meat.
Right.
They were just hunting to hunt. They weren't hunting to like survive. And that's where we got into a little bit of a pickle. With turkey hunting, turkeys were almost extinct in the early 1900s because of overhunting.
Mm-hmm.
And then they brought in what's called the Wild Turkey Federation and brought it back to a booming population. And that's all through conservation. Like that was a private federation that was helping pretty much single-handedly bring back one species just
Yeah.
through close monitor and conservation. And then the same thing with ducks. They used to have these things. It's actually wild. They were called punt guns,
Uh-huh. Look that up.
Punt,
You said
and
P or B, I'm sorry.
Punt, and they would put them on the front of
Holy
their
shit, dude.
yeah, yeah. They were cannons. They were just it was uh, just massive shotgun that they would put on the front of their boats, and they would shoot them into a flock of
That's a real
ducks
one.
or a flock of geese, and just obliterate 100 of them
Yeah. Dude, look at
with
that.
one shot. Like, look at that's my favorite picture.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
and so
That's
that was
wild.
a big thing. Like, especially honestly down in Duck in North Carolina, that
Uh-huh.
attributed to a lot of the reason the ducks didn't come back is because they just overhunted that area. And it was, there's a type of duck called a canvasback, and
Mhm.
out west they would take those and they would shoot them, and then the whole story of why they're called a canvasback is they would put them into these canvas bags and send them to restaurants on the East Coast, like fine dining restaurants,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't, or they would request that they sent the bag back to them because the canvas bag that they sent the duck in was actually worth more than the duck. Yeah, because they were so plentiful back then. So they just
Right.
hunted these things and just
Yeah.
pretty much almost exterminated them. And then Ducks Unlimited came in with a lot of like government help and helped
Mhm.
bring back the populations.
So
But
I
there are a
guess
lot of extinct species. I mean,
I
stuff
guess
that's
another
not around anymore.
little follow-up question to some of the stuff you were saying in the middle there. So the tag system that generally works around the population of the specific animal that you're trying to shoot, right? So
Exactly.
they only issue out as many tags as they can to keep the population sustainable and thriving for the near future.
Exactly. So with like species like um with ducks and deer and turkeys, they're not nearly where they were like back 150 years ago.
Yeah,
But it's at
sure.
the point now where they're considered, not endangered or anything. So
Right.
you pretty much get, X amount that you can shoot. There's limits on different types of duck. Each duck has a different limit on it,
Yeah.
just based off how common they are. Deer, the tag system based off the population of deer in whatever state you're in.
Hmm.
But like they just reintroduced a herd of elk into Virginia. We
Oh.
lost elk in Virginia in the I just read about this. I think it was the early 1800s,
Hmm.
late 1700s was the last time we had elk, and they reintroduced them because they used to be down in like Franklin County and down near um, Blacksburg. That's where they used to roam.
I mean, I totally believe that, given
But they
the
just got,
landscape.
Buffalo too. Buffalo were down there too, which shocked me.
Yeah, that is wild. I
But
figured they lived in more like plains type areas
I did too.
than
But no,
hilly
apparently they
spots.
were wild bison living down in
Dude,
Southwest Virginia on the
that's
Tennessee line.
crazy, man. That's so
Uh-huh.
cool, though. Could you imagine
Yeah.
seeing a buffalo out there?
Dude, I'd shit my pants if I was out there deer hunting and all of a sudden a bison just walked by me.
Yeah, jeez, that'd be crazy.
Yeah. But
Um,
like with the elk, pretty much they introduced a herd of I want to say it was 12
uh-huh.
about 10 years ago just to see if they would repopulate. And since then they're up to like 200.
Oh, wow, that's
So
great.
they've gotten to the point where you can start hunting them again, but it's a lottery draw and they only give out like five.
Right, the whole year. Yeah.
And you only get to shoot one. And
So,
you can only shoot a buck or shoot a bull.
uh-huh. So I guess that leads me to my next question rather perfectly. I was going to ask it earlier. If you have a group of buddies, say I get 5 tags and I only exhaust 3 of them, can I give my tags to you, or is that not how it works?
Honestly, with that is a
Gray area?
spot where no, you're not allowed to.
Oh, not allowed to at all.
I've seen people do it, and as long as you're not shooting more than a two-man limit,
Hmm.
like I don't know. It's a slippery slope there.
Sure.
Um,
Okay.
especially with ducks. Like with ducks, it's a little bit more, because there's a man limit. So how many ever men you have in the blind, that's how many ducks you can have. So if you have 5 guys in the blind, the limit for ducks is 25. You can have
Hmm.
25 ducks for the 5 guys in the blind. Doesn't matter
Right.
really who shot it because it's kind of hard to tell who shot it sometimes.
Yeah.
You just can't have more than that amount of ducks in the blind.
Gotcha. Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to say is too, like, say I got one of those 5 elk tags and we went out hunting together and you just so happened to have a better opportunity to shot than I had. What would we go there? Would we toe the line? Because this is a once in a lifetime
No, no. I
opportunity.
mean,
You know what I mean?
I could take the shot,
Okay.
but once that shot was taken, that elk tag is used.
Right. Right.
So like you'll see a lot of guys who hunt together and they each have an elk tag, and pretty much, one guy will get a better shot than another, so that guy will take it. But
Hmm.
that guy's elk tag is then used, so only the other guy can shoot at that point. So it's as long as you're not shooting over your limit,
Right. Yeah.
it's fine.
Right. That's the whole
Or as long as
point.
you're not illegally shooting it without a tag, it's fine.
Right.
But
Right.
the whole sharing thing, you know, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. No,
But I don't think
100%.
it's necessarily illegal. I just think it's
Gotcha.
discouraged.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why, right? Especially if you got 5 tags and you go out and you shoot 6 deer, right? Like that's totally against
That's
the
poaching, yeah.
right. That's against what they're trying to do there is trying to regulate the system to a usable amount. So yeah, I can see how it could go both ways.
I will refer you to your local game warden with those questions.
There we go. Yeah, I'm sure you could answer that for me, him or her. But
But yeah, it's those tags, what people think is if you get those tags, and it's the same thing with like I don't necessarily agree with big game hunting, like for like lions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I get why people like it,
Sure.
but it's the same thing, like lion, where you shoot one elephant, or you shoot one water buffalo, or whatever you shoot. That tag and the amount of money you spend on it, because like a lion tag is like $20,000. It's something stupid.
That's crazy. I'm gonna look it up, but I mean, I bet you it's over 10 or
It's
fifteen
something
thousand.
absurd. Um, and that tag, will raise five other lions. So it's raising the most amount of money out of anything that is being raised for animals. But, I get how people say like, well, it's kind of blood money because you're killing one to get others. But it's like, yeah, but people enjoy it. People aren't going to stop hunting. People love hunting,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean,
myself included.
I think kind of from what we were saying too, we're trying to project the importance of it too. Not necessarily whether we like it or not. I think it's a very integral part of how the ecosystem and the environment works. If
Yeah.
there was or no natural predators, I mean, what would we all do, right? I mean, that's part of nature in itself.
And honestly, the best metaphor or simile I can make for it, I'm not sure which one, I can't remember what the definitions of those are, would
Uh,
be, or comparison, I guess would be the best word, would be the lottery. I mean, you could be completely against gambling and think it's wrong. You don't have to do it. Other people will do it, but you're going to benefit from that money because the money that is being spent on the lottery is then going to be put into, you know, roads and other infrastructure items. It's the same thing with hunting. You might not agree with it, but when the population rebounds, like that is strictly, or that is, partially due to people hunting and the money they're spending to help revitalize populations.
right. I mean, that money is almost always going directly back into the channel in which you guys are reaping the benefits from. So like
Exactly.
it's way more interesting. When Hunter and I were talking, he brought up a great example of how Amazon's fleet of vans is using our roadways and polluting our air and basically shitting on our infrastructure. And yes, they pay a corporate tax, but are they really paying back into our society as much as they're taking? And I
Oh, hell
think
no.
right. And I think that's totally, the opposite of what we're talking about. You guys are paying in, but you're also taking as much as you're paying in, or if not any, right? You might not hunt any animals. And I think
5 years haven't killed a single
right.
turkey or deer. I've killed some ducks, so I've had some luck there, but
There
that's
you,
another tag you have to purchase.
right, exactly. So this website euronews.com is saying the more endangered the animal, the more expensive it gets. Of course, a captive bred lion is cheap, just a few thousand euros. And then it says it gets all the way up to endangered black rhinos that you pay up to 100,000 euros just to shoot the animal.
I couldn't kill a rhino, I don't think. Anything
Hell,
endangered, I'm not going to shoot.
no, absolutely not. I would never, man. That's against the whole point. Like the whole point,
But also, like, I'm not going to shoot a captive lion. Like, what the hell's the point of that? If I'm
right?
going to shoot
That
a lion, I'm going to shoot a wild one that'll, like, rip my face off if I miss.
yeah, yeah. Leo DiCaprio in The Revenant with the
Yeah,
grizzly
dude, I don't
bear.
want some, like, docile lion that's going to, like, roll over and let me rub his belly.
Well, isn't that the case when they do a lot of those big game trophy hunting over there? They sedate the animals so it's easy for them to kill.
I've heard that. Um, I don't know how true it is. I've seen some videos of some guys almost getting, like, real fucked up by lions.
Yeah, sure.
I saw one the other day. Lion charged. So with those, the thing about Africa is here we've got like, semi-auto shotguns that hold, five slugs. So or four slugs, however many are slugs. You
Right.
essentially get that many shots. Over there, they're very old school with it, and they use big bore double barrel rifles. So you
Mm,
get two shots for the most part.
that's
And
crazy.
if you miss those two shots, you've got, you know,
A machete.
eight 800 pounds of lion coming to rip your face off. And pretty much this dude missed his two shots, and luckily his buddy who was standing behind him, the lion came and charged him, knocked him over, and then his buddy shot the lion and killed it.
Jeez, dude, that would be terrifying.
Yeah, see if you can find the video. Just look up guy gets charged by lion.
Hunter. Lion attacks hunter in African safari.
Maybe. That might be a snuff film though.
Male lion charge, dangerous game hunting. This looks crazy. We'll just put this one on. We can close out the episode with this, watching somebody get
Yeah.
almost mauled by a lion.
Oh wait,
That's
hold on. I think I found it.
oh, you found it?
Is male lion charge dangerous game hunting?
Yeah, that's the one I got right
Yeah,
here.
I think that's
Oh,
it.
that's it. Okay, perfect.
Oh wait, no, this isn't the one I was thinking of. Wait, maybe it is.
It's lagging a little bit on my screen, unfortunately.
Yeah, but like when I see these guys get mauled by lions, like I don't really feel bad for them.
Yeah,
Like, that's
me
part of the
either.
game.
Yeah, you're putting yourself in that situation.
So he pulled that shot, missed.
Oh, I hear it.
No, that's not the one I was thinking.
Oh, damn, they
Yeah,
got music in it
that's not the
too.
one I was thinking. The one I was thinking is the lion literally charges the dude. He shoots twice, misses. It knocks him over, and then his buddy shoots it, and then I think it turns on him, and then another guy shoots it again, and finally it took like three shots to get this thing down.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't have any sympathy for those guys. I
Yeah,
get it.
man.
If
Right.
you get mauled, I'm not gonna feel bad for you.
Yeah, I mean, you're putting yourself in that situation, risk versus reward, right? You know?
Yeah, like if I was like bear hunting, like a black bear fucks my shit up. Like
Yeah.
it's the most dangerous game.
Have you seen that Instagram account? It's like Boston Be a Man. Anytime I think about that type of shit, it's like you live in the Northeast and it's below freezing. Wear shorts to work. Be a man. And like stupid shit like that. So that's what made me think of that. It's like, oh, you're getting attacked by a mountain lion. You missed your first two shots. Suck it up. Drop the
Rip its
gun.
face off.
Yeah, rip its face off. All right. Well, on that
Yeah.
note, I think we should probably wrap it up since it's almost an hour and 20 minutes. This time has flown by. I want to thank you for coming on here, and we're going to do it again. I had a good time.
Yeah, man. Let me know next time. We'll get some topics going. Good time.
100%. You got any final remarks, anything you want to say before we wrap it up here?
If you go lion hunting, make sure you get the lion.
There you go. Some wise words from Coleman before we wrap it up. All right. Well, thanks again, man, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Catch you later.